Hey, my name is James Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. The Renters' Rights Bill is done. Everything is complete. All that needs to happen now is it goes for Royal Assent. I've also got some stuff wrong with the Renters' Rights Bill. I've got some really bad news for landlords in this video. This is surprising. I didn't think this would happen so quickly. And I've got the date when we're expecting this to actually be active law and what parts of the bill will become active immediately. So if you're new around here and you haven't done before, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We've just hit 50,000 subscribers. And by subscribing, you'll get all the latest news on the Renters' Rights Bill, leasehold reform, house prices, interest rates, and much, much more. And I think this video is a very important one. So let's get some views on this video. Your part's simple. All you need to do is smash like, tickle like, do something to the like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that's really helped the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. And share this video. Press the share button, WhatsApp it, email it, or Facebook it to a landlord, because I think people need to know this is finally happening. So yesterday they had their final little spiel in Parliament about the Renters' Rights Bill. There is one amendment that got through, which is a little surprise, which I'll talk about in this video as well. But all in all, it stuck as was expected, because we had lots of debates over the last few months. Pretty much every time anyone brought up an objection, an amendment, the government shot it down. And so the bill stands as is. And what's surprising is a few things here. So Matthew Pennycook was the one talking in Parliament yesterday, and he has said that this bill is obviously good for renters. That's very important, and we want stuff that's good for renters. We don't want bad landlords in the market. But the Conservatives, in their rebuttal, said not so sure this is good for landlords, because some of the stuff that you've included here is actually going to reduce the amount of rental stock even more. And that was said to show in the Labour government's own findings. They've done research on this, on what could happen as a result of the renters' rights. And one of the big things that was highlighted in there is that, look, landlords are going to quit the market because of this and shrink the rental market when we need more properties. So Mr. Pennycook said yesterday two things. There are no timescales for implementation. There are on a couple of things, but on the majority of stuff, there is no timescales for implementation. So what we hope is this doesn't drag out like the Leasehold Reform Act. So the Leasehold Reform Act became law last year, and what's happened since is very little. We've got an update on that one last week where they said, look, we're moving this forward now, and we're going to put a new draft out, and it's going to take years for that to get through. So the renters' rights, you could have things being very, very slow. Pennycook said he wants to give landlords time to adjust. I want to give you some of the timescales here. You might think that that sentence doesn't actually make much sense, but he wants to make sure that landlords have time to adjust to the new rules. So what's the bad news in there? Well, the bad news, which I got wrong, and this might not happen still, but this is what they're penciling in. Section 21, they're saying will be abolished immediately. I'm going to give you the date on this at the end of the video. Section 21 abolished immediately. Not smart, in my opinion, because here's where you've got the problem. This is the biggest concern that landlords have right now, is the Section 21. And the reason for that is sometimes as landlords, you just cut your losses. Let's just say you've got a tenant that's not paying you rent on time, they've damaged your property, they've got antisocial behaviour. You can take them the more formal route and give a Section 8 and wait to go to court. They can get CCJs and all that kind of stuff off the back of that. The problem is, it takes ages. So people just go with the Section 21. They know the tenant will most of the time leave. Sometimes they don't, but most of the time they'll leave in that period of time. And then they just often don't bother chasing up for any rent arrears, and they just write it off. That's better for the tenant. That's better for the landlord. What I'll expect here is the fact that now this isn't at Royal Assent yet. I think that a ton of landlords, like tens of thousands of landlords, more than ever, are going to give Section 21s before Christmas, which is brutal on the tenants. It's not something that those landlords wanted to do either, but I think that's what's going to happen. If you think, what's the date today? The 23rd. There'll be people watching this, reading this in the press that think, I better get a Section 21 in because I want to get my property back. And that means people are going to be losing their properties right up in the week before Christmas. So mark my words, I'm sure I'll be doing a video in the next few weeks saying Section 21s are at an all-time high. So that's abolished. They're saying immediately. We'll see if that happens. And the other thing that they're saying will be immediate is the rolling tenancies, which I did get right. I said that's pretty easy to implement, not really hard for estate agents. And what that means is if you've got a tenant or you're a tenant yourself already in a tenancy, I've got a tenancy starting tomorrow. So that tenancy is going to be a 1-year tenancy. So it's going to be before this gets Royal Assent. And so that tenancy will stay active for that whole year. It won't just convert to a rolling tenancy. And then in a year from now, that will move on to a rolling tenancy with 2 months notice, right? That's how that will switch across. But any new tenancies, renewal. So I've got a tenant that's got a renewal in March, for example. Most likely this will be pretty much active by then or close to being active. And so they'll probably go on to a rolling tenancy. Does that make sense? So active tenancies will just complete. So if you've got a 6 months tenancy, that will complete. A year, that will complete. And then it will go on to rolling. New tenancies will become rolling immediately on this becoming law. I don't think that's a massive deal. I know some people don't really like those, but that's what it is. So the next thing what they talked about, they did put an amendment in there, and that's on shared ownership. And what that means is that, you know, you get people when you buy a property and you own 25% and you rent the rest. Now, if they want to sell their property and they can't sell it for some reason because the market's slow at the moment, as an example, they won't have to wait the 1 year like everybody else to re-let the property. If they want to rent it out, we will be able to do that straight away. Obviously, depends on the terms of the shared ownership, if they're allowed to make it a rental property, etc., etc., etc. But they will not have to wait. That's a little amendment, doesn't impact lots of people, but it's in there. So when are we expecting this to be active? Well, we expect Royal Assent to happen in the next few weeks, and this to be live by April. So what I feel is going to happen is a real rough patch for tenants at the moment. I think you're going to see lots of landlords quit in the next few months. I think it's going to be an influx of landlords that just say, this is it for me. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. I thought this would take longer, so I sat around and waited to see what would happen. But now they're saying Section 21 will be abolished in the first week. That's a big, bold statement. The Conservatives are arguing the court isn't ready. Your own data says this isn't going to work and it's going to backfire. Could that change between now and then? Possibly. But they're saying it's going to be immediate. So that's quite a big stance change. We've had different governments say the courts need to be ready. Then Labour said not. I thought this would take longer. Some of you did as well. Maybe it is, but I think we're maybe wrong on this one. So let me know what you think about that. That's quite a bombshell statement from this. So yeah, Renters' Rights Bill, next video we'll be talking about is when it gets Royal Assent. There's not going to be much in between that now. So that will happen in the next few weeks or so. Do make sure before you go, if you haven't grabbed it, grab our ebook Mortgage Secrets, how to get the best mortgage deals in 2025 and beyond. This will help you get the best broker. It will teach you when the best time is to start your mortgage process and how to get off-market lenders. There's lots of them in here as well. It's in the comments. It's in the first, in the description. Do also smash like on the way out. Check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.